I have seen the future of horror, and its name is Clive Barker. Stephen King on Clive Barker's The Hellbound Heart, which was later adapted into... He also made this adaptation, so any differences is all on him because he didn't like transmutation. Or Underworld, whatever you want to call the film. We open with a very sweaty guy with dirty nails buying a puzzle box from some Asian guy in the Middle East. This is Frank, and he got the box because he thinks it's going to give him endless pleasure. And then he gets hooked and cut and torn apart, which actually he really likes. And in the book, he really, really likes it. But then he realizes too late that this is now his existence, being chunks of flesh in the floorboards. But then an indeterminate amount of time later, his brother Larry and Larry's wife Julia move into his place. In the book, Larry's name is Rory. And it turns out Julia has complicated feelings about Frank, because he's this rude, violent creep. So of course, Julia thinks he's really hot, and way more interesting than her boring fiancé, and they sleep together, which seems to be pretty accurate for most people apparently. Then we meet Ashley Lawrence as Kirsty. In the book, Kirsty is just Rory's friend, but here Kirsty's been upgraded to being Larry's daughter. She's here visiting her dad and stepmom. This mover looks just like my brother. But then Larry nicks himself on a loose nail, like really, really badly, and interrupts Julia's fantasy. Some of his blood drips on the floor, which after a while resurrects Frank with a really, really gross looking effect that's really well done. Later Julia finds him, and Frank tells Julia that he needs more blood. So the next day Julia seduces some random guy and kills him, and Frank feeds on him. And I guess he got some Hasbro style diminishing returns because just a tiny bit of Larry's blood gives him this far. But after an entire second dude, he's barely different. And Frank explains that he needs more blood because he's trying to run away from the cenobites who don't know he's gone yet. They're the guys who did this to him. Meanwhile, Kirsty's at the pet shop dealing with a Karen and sees Hagrid eating bugs. Well, that's a weird segue, because Julia gets another guy, and Frank's looking a tad bit better, I guess. He still doesn't have skin. He explains the puzzle box to Julia and says he wants to run away with her. But oh no, the next guy Kirsty witnesses. She investigates and meets her old creepy Uncle Frank. During the tussle, she gets the puzzle box, and she runs away until exhaustion. Waking up in a hospital, she kind of just rubs her hands against the puzzle box and it solves itself practically. Which summons the cenobites, the Chatterer, Butterball, female, who's Clive's cousin, and a drama teacher in Cumbria. And of course the iconic Pinhead, played by Doug Bradley, who's definitely one of those characters you have seen somewhere parodied before. He's not exactly like how he's described in the book, and not the main Cenobite, but these two guys can't talk with all that shit on their face, so he had to be. Kirsty asks who they are, and Pinhead, with his really cool voice, states,
"Explorers in the further regions of experience, demons to some, angels to others."
They want Kirsty because she opened the box, but she states that Frank escaped them. The Cenobites don't believe her, but give her a sporting chance to go prove it. Meanwhile, Larry gets home. Julia tells Larry about Frank and wants to deal with it. And they want this to be a big twist, but it's kind of obvious, and I mean, she's even stated that she doesn't care about Larry and has killed 3 people for Frank, so... Kirsty arrives looking for Frank, but Harry tells him that he's dealt with. The Cenobites arrive, but Kirsty's the only one fooled by Frank, wearing Larry's skin. Frank tries stabbing Kirsty, but accidentally hits Julia, and he doesn't really seem to care. One chase later, and Frank's like, "Haha, I, Frank, have captured you, and my name is Frank." And the Cenobites were just waiting for him to say that, because I guess they were just vibing in the attic for 8 minutes. They capture him, and he licks his lips after getting hooked, because this is by the same writer who wrote Cabal, where a guy cumped on the face of an eldritch god. Clive Barker's a pervert. It's not over yet, because the Cenobites still want Kirsten for some reason.
"We have such sights to show you."
Haha! So Kirsty just closes the box, which sends them back to hell with really bad CGI. Which apparently was made by 2 drunk guys over a weekend in the 80s, so I guess it's not terrible. I think Kirsty burns the house down, and she tries burning the puzzle box, But then homeless Hagrid from earlier shows up, gets the box, and transforms into an album cover. Radical. And the Asian guy from the Middle East gets the puzzle box back. Final body count. 7. And now it's Hellraiser. It's one of the most unique horror movies, especially for the time. This horror movie came out in the slasher era, aka the 80s. This film shines as being different from the rest. With an excellent story, interesting creatures, with the cenobites, fantastic practical effects, and a very eerie soundtrack. I wouldn't say it's the best in the franchise, but it's still really good. I would give it an 8.